They say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. Mine was. For exactly 3 hours and 47 minutes. That's how long it took for me to discover that my sister, my maid of honor, my best friend since childhood, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world, had been sleeping with my husband for the past 8 months. 8 months of stolen moments, whispered phone calls, and lies so carefully constructed that I never suspected a thing. But here's what they don't tell you about betrayal at that level: it doesn't destroy you immediately. It crystallizes you. Hardens something deep inside that you didn't even know was soft. And in that moment, standing in the bridal suite with my white dress rustling around me and my phone screen glowing with evidence I could never unsee, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cancel the wedding and give them the satisfaction of knowing they'd broken me. No. I was going to smile. I was going to walk down that aisle. I was going to say my vows. And then, I was going to destroy them both so completely that they'd wish I had simply walked away. This is that story. Let me take you back 6 months before the wedding. Before I knew. When I was still the naive, trusting version of myself that believed in fairy tales and happily ever afters. My name is Elena, and I've always been what people call the good one. The responsible daughter. The straight-A student who became the reliable corporate accountant. The person who remembers everyone's birthday, who volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends, who brings homemade cookies to the office and never complains when she has to work late. My sister, Vanessa, was the opposite. 3 years younger, infinitely more beautiful, and blessed with the kind of charisma that made people forgive her for basically everything. She'd been fired from 7 jobs in 5 years. She'd borrowed money from our parents more times than I could count. She'd dated a series of increasingly problematic men and somehow always emerged unscathed, leaving chaos in her wake. But I loved her. God help me, I loved her fiercely. And Marcus? Marcus was perfect. Or so I thought. We met at a mutual friend's dinner party. He was a corporate lawyer, successful, charming, with dark hair that fell just slightly over his forehead and a smile that made my stomach flip. He quoted poetry. He cooked elaborate meals on weekends. He remembered small details about conversations we'd had weeks prior. 3 months into dating, he proposed on a beach at sunset, with a ring he'd designed himself. I said yes without hesitation. Vanessa was thrilled when I told her. Finally. She'd squealed, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her signature vanilla perfume. You deserve this, Elena. You deserve everything. I asked her to be my maid of honor that same night. She cried, actual tears streaming down her perfect cheekbones, and said she'd be honored. Looking back now, I wonder if she was already sleeping with him then. If those were tears of guilt or tears of joy at how perfectly she was fooling me. The wedding planning consumed me for months. I became the kind of bride I'd always secretly judged, obsessed with centerpieces and seating charts, debating between ivory and eggshell white for hours. Marcus seemed amused by my intensity but supportive. He'd taste test cakes with me, weigh in on flower arrangements, hold fabric swatches up to the light. Vanessa was there for all of it. She came to every dress fitting, every vendor meeting, every planning session. She helped me address invitations at my kitchen table while we drank wine and laughed about our childhood memories. She held my hand when I had a panic attack about whether the guest list was too large. You're going to be the most beautiful bride, she told me one night, her eyes suspiciously bright. Marcus is so lucky. I squeezed her hand. I'm lucky too. To have you both. If I'd been paying attention, really paying attention, I might have noticed the small things. The way Vanessa's phone buzzed constantly when we were together, and how she'd angle the screen away from me when checking it. The way Marcus sometimes smelled like vanilla when he came home from client meetings. The knowing looks they'd exchange across the dinner table when all 3 of us got together. But I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy being happy, being trusting, being the good one who never suspected the people she loved of capable of hurting her. The affair, as I would later piece together, started 4 months before the proposal. Marcus and Vanessa had run into each other at a bar. She'd been there with friends, he'd been there for a colleague's birthday. They'd chatted, laughed, exchanged numbers just to stay in touch. The first time they slept together was in his apartment, in our bed, while I was on a business trip to Seattle. She told me this later, during our final conversation. Said it with a kind of defiant pride, like she wanted me to know exactly how thoroughly she'd violated every boundary of sisterhood and decency. The discovery happened 3 days before the wedding. I was in the bridal suite at the venue, going over final details with the wedding coordinator. My phone was charging on the dresser. Vanessa's phone was beside it, she'd left it there when she ran out to grab coffee for both of us. It buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. I wasn't trying to snoop. I really wasn't. But the screen lit up with each notification, and the preview text was visible. Marcus, can't wait to see you tonight. Same place? Marcus, she's at the venue all day. We have hours. Marcus, I love you. After this weekend, we'll figure out how to tell her. My hand reached for the phone before my brain could process what I was seeing. I unlocked it. We'd always known each other's passcodes, another little gesture of sisterly trust. And opened their text thread. 347 messages. Photos. Videos. Plans. Endearments. Evidence of an entire relationship that had been happening in parallel to mine, hidden in plain sight. I read through them all. Every single one. My hands were steady. My breathing was even. The wedding coordinator was still talking in the background, something about the flower delivery time, but her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. The affair had started before he proposed. He'd been sleeping with her while he was picking out my engagement ring. She'd been kissing him while helping me choose my wedding dress. They'd discussed running away together, starting over somewhere new. But then, and this is what made it even more cruel, they'd decided to wait. To let the wedding happen. Because Marcus didn't want to deal with the legal complications of canceling, and because Vanessa thought it would be too suspicious if she suddenly pulled away from the wedding party. They were planning to continue the affair after the wedding. Maybe indefinitely. In one message, Marcus had written, "She'll never know. She's too trusting. Too naive. It's almost sad." Vanessa had replied, "That's what makes this so easy. And honestly? She doesn't satisfy you the way I do. You said it yourself." I took screenshots. Every single message, every photo, every cruel word. I airdropped them all to my phone. Then I carefully deleted the notifications, placed Vanessa's phone back exactly where it had been, and finished my meeting with the wedding coordinator. When Vanessa came back with the coffees, I smiled at her. "Thank you," I said, taking the cup from her hand. "You're the best sister anyone could ask for." She beamed at me. "Always." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Marcus, watching him breathe, and ran through 1,000 different scenarios in my mind. I could confront them. I could cancel the wedding. I could call my parents, tell them everything, let the whole charade collapse. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was rage. Maybe it was the small, dark part of me that had been suppressed for so long under layers of good girl behavior, finally emerging with something that felt like hunger. I wanted them to pay. Not just to feel guilty or embarrassed. I wanted them to lose everything they cared about. I wanted them to hurt the way I was hurting, but worse. And I realized, if I canceled the wedding, they'd get what they wanted. A clean exit. A way to start their new life together without the mess of a public scandal. But if I went through with it? If I played along, smiled for the cameras, said my vows in front of 200 guests, and then revealed everything at exactly the right moment? That would destroy them. so I started planning. The next day, I was calm. Too calm. Marcus commented on it at breakfast. "You seem zen," he said, studying me over his coffee. "Everything okay?" I smiled. "I think I've just accepted that not everything will be perfect, you know? The important thing is that we'll be married. The details don't matter as much as I thought they did." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I love you." The words felt like acid. "I love you too." I spent that afternoon doing research. I hired a private investigator. A woman named Rita who came highly recommended and asked no questions about why a bride wanted surveillance on her fiancé and sister 3 days before her wedding. "How much proof do you need?" she asked. "All of it," I said. "Photos, videos, timestamps. Everything." She delivered the next day. Marcus and Vanessa meeting at a hotel. Kissing in his car. Leaving a restaurant with his hand on the small of her back. The timestamps proved they'd been together the same nights Marcus told me he was working late, the same afternoons Vanessa claimed she was job hunting. I also consulted a lawyer. Not anyone Marcus knew, a woman in a different firm who specialized in prenuptial agreements and divorce proceedings. "You're getting married in 2 days," she said carefully. "And you want to discuss divorce proceedings?" "Insurance," I told her. "I need to know my options." She laid them out. With evidence of adultery before the marriage, the prenup we'd signed would be nullified. I'd be entitled to significant assets. And if I could prove the affair had been ongoing during our engagement, I could potentially sue for fraud and emotional distress. "The wedding itself is expensive," she added. "If you can document that they planned the deception, you might be able to recover those costs from both parties." "Both parties," I repeated. "Including my sister." "If she was complicit in the deception, yes." I smiled. "Perfect." The day before the wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner. 50 of our closest friends and family gathered at an upscale restaurant Marcus had chosen. My parents gave speeches. Marcus's best man told embarrassing stories. Everyone laughed and toasted and talked about love and commitment. Vanessa sat next to me, gorgeous in a navy dress, her hand occasionally touching my arm as she leaned in to whisper comments about various guests. Marcus sat on my other side, playing the role of devoted groom perfectly. At one point, I excused myself to go to the bathroom. Vanessa followed me. We'd always done this, the teenage habit of going to the restroom together never quite fading. In the mirror, adjusting her lipstick, she said, "I'm so happy for you, Elena. This is everything you've ever wanted." I met her eyes in the reflection. "It really is. Marcus is a good man. You two are perfect for each other." "Do you really think so?" "Of course." She turned to face me. "Why? Are you having doubts?" This was my chance. I could end it here. Confront her, reveal what I knew, watch her face crumble. But I thought about the 200 guests arriving tomorrow. The photographer. The videographer. The carefully planned moment I'd been constructing in my head for the past 48 hours. "No doubts," I said. "Just grateful. For everything. For you." She hugged me tight. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, smell her vanilla perfume. "I'd do anything for you," she whispered. "You know that, right?" "I know," I said. Liar, I thought. My wedding day dawned clear and bright. One of those perfect autumn mornings where the air is crisp and the light is golden and everything feels possible. I woke up at 5 a.m. in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house. Vanessa was asleep in her old room across the hall. For a moment, lying there in the pre-dawn quiet, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined everything. That the text messages were fake, that my sister would never betray me, that the man I was marrying in 7 hours actually loved me. Then I reached for my phone and pulled up the screenshots again. The evidence was irrefutable. I got up, showered, and started getting ready. My mother came in around 7 with coffee and croissants. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" "Happy," I said. And I meant it. Just not in the way she thought. The morning passed in a blur of hair and makeup, photographers capturing every moment, bridesmaids arriving with mimosas and laughter. Vanessa was the perfect maid of honor. Adjusting my veil, making sure my train was perfect, holding my hands and telling me I looked like a princess. "I'm so proud to be your sister," she said, and the makeup artist cooed at how sweet we were. I squeezed her hands. "Today wouldn't be possible without you." At 2:30 p.m., I stood in the bridal suite, alone for the first time since waking. The ceremony started at 3. Through the window, I could see guests arriving, milling around the garden where we'd exchange vows under an arbor wrapped in white roses. I looked at myself in the mirror. The dress was stunning, a fitted lace bodice with a flowing silk skirt, a cathedral-length veil, my grandmother's pearl earrings. I looked like a bride from a magazine. Like someone whose life was about to begin. My phone buzzed. A text from Rita, the investigator. "Rita, subject and target arrived together. Went to separate waiting areas when they saw guests. Standing by for your signal." I took a deep breath. Me, standby confirmed. Proceed with phase 2 at 4:30 p.m. Rita, copy that. Good luck. I slipped my phone into the hidden pocket I'd had sewn into my dress. Then I opened the door and walked toward my father, who was waiting to walk me down the aisle. "Ready, sweetheart?" he asked, his eyes misty. "More than ready," I said. The ceremony was beautiful. I'd made sure of that. The string quartet played perfectly as I walked down the aisle, my father's arm steady under my hand. The garden was everything I'd imagined, fairy lights strung between trees, flowers everywhere, 200 faces turning to watch me approach. And there, at the altar, was Marcus. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, his expression appropriately emotional as he watched me come toward him. When I reached the front, he took my hands and whispered, "You're stunning." "Thank you," I whispered back. Vanessa stood to my left, holding my bouquet, tears already streaming down her face. What a performance. The officiant began. We'd chosen traditional vows, nothing custom, nothing too personal. I wanted this part to be simple. "Do you, Marcus James, take Elena Marie to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Elena Marie, take Marcus James to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd proposed to me while sleeping with my sister. Who'd planned our future while planning his escape. Who'd looked at my trust and naivety and seen weakness instead of love. "I do," I said. We exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced us married. Marcus leaned in to kiss me, and I let him, even though his lips felt like ice. The guests erupted in applause. The string quartet started playing again. We walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, and everyone was smiling, crying, taking photos. Phase 1 complete. The reception was at the same venue, in a massive tent decorated with thousands of tiny lights. Dinner was a 5-course meal I'd spent weeks perfecting the menu for. The wine flowed freely. People danced and laughed and told us how perfect we were together. Marcus and I did our first dance to The Way You Look Tonight. I smiled up at him, my hand on his shoulder, and he looked at me like I was the most precious thing in his world. "Mrs. Hartley," he murmured. "How does it feel?" "Like a dream," I said honestly. Vanessa danced with Marcus's best man. She caught my eye across the dance floor and winked at me. I winked back. At 4:25 p.m., I excused myself to touch up my makeup. In the bathroom, I pulled out my phone and texted Rita. "Me, ready. Rita, projector is in position. Tech guy is standing by. On your signal." I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. The perfect bride. The trusting wife. The naive little sister. Goodbye, I thought. I walked back into the reception and found the DJ. Hey, I have something I want to show everyone. Can you get people's attention? He grinned. Sure thing. Speech time? Something like that. He cut the music and tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention please. The bride has something she'd like to share. The tent fell quiet. 200 faces turned toward me. Marcus looked puzzled but smiled encouragingly. Vanessa looked curious, her champagne glass halfway to her lips. I took the microphone and smiled at the crowd. Thank you all so much for being here today, I said. This has been the most important day of my life, and having you all here to witness it means the world to me. Murmurs of awe and scattered applause. I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge some special people. My parents, who have supported me through everything. I gestured to them at their table. My mother was already tearing up. My wonderful new husband, who has shown me what partnership means. Marcus smiled, clearly expecting a sentimental speech. And of course, my sister, my maid of honor, my best friend, who has been by my side through every step of this journey. Vanessa blew me a kiss. I caught it. In fact, I continued, my relationship with Marcus and my relationship with Vanessa have been so intertwined. I thought you should all see just how close we three have become. I nodded to Rita, who was standing by the AV equipment in the corner. The lights dimmed. A projector whirred to life, casting an image on the massive screen that had been used earlier for our childhood photos slideshow. The first photo appeared. It was Marcus and Vanessa, kissing in his car. The date stamp was from 4 months ago, a week before our engagement party. The tent went silent. Not a confused silence, but the kind of silence that happens when everyone realizes something terrible is unfolding and no one can look away. The photo changed. Marcus and Vanessa leaving a hotel together, his arm around her waist. Date stamp, 2 months ago. The same day he'd told me he was working late on a big case. Another photo. Vanessa in Marcus's apartment, our apartment, wearing his shirt, laughing at something off camera. Date stamp, 3 weeks ago. The day I'd been at my final dress fitting. The images kept coming, each one timestamped, each one damning. These were taken over the past 8 months, I said into the microphone, my voice steady. For those of you doing the math, yes, my husband has been having an affair with my sister since before we got engaged. And yes, both of them knew about it throughout our entire wedding planning process. Someone gasped. Multiple someones. I heard my mother make a sound like a wounded animal. But wait, I said. There's more. The screen changed to show screenshots of text messages. I'd selected the most damaging ones, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Marcus, she's too trusting. Too naive. It's almost sad. Vanessa, that's what makes this so easy. Marcus. She doesn't satisfy me the way you do. Vanessa, after the wedding, we can be more careful. But I'm not giving you up. Marcus, I love you. Not her. She's just comfortable. I let the messages sit there for a long moment, letting the weight of them sink in. Then I looked at Marcus. He was standing now, his face the color of ash. Elena. Don't. I held up a hand. Just don't. I turned to Vanessa. She was frozen, her champagne glass still in her hand, her perfect makeup running as tears streamed down her face. You said you'd do anything for me, I said to her. Remember? In the bathroom yesterday? She couldn't speak. Well, here's what you did. You helped me realize that sometimes the people we love most are the people capable of hurting us worst. You taught me that trust is a commodity that can be traded for vanity and selfishness. You showed me that blood means nothing when set against desire. I turned back to the crowd. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you for bearing witness. Because here's what's going to happen next. this marriage, which lasted exactly 1 hour and 47 minutes, is going to be annulled. Thanks to the prenuptial agreement and the evidence you've all just seen, Marcus will be paying for this entire wedding. Every flower, every meal, every bottle of wine you've enjoyed tonight. That's on him. I smiled at the crowd, at all those shocked faces. Additionally, thanks to these lovely time-stamped photographs and messages, I'll be pursuing legal action for fraud and emotional distress against both my husband and my sister. My lawyer assures me it's quite the airtight case. Marcus found his voice. Elena, please, can we talk about this privately? Privately? I laughed, and it sounded strange even to my own ears, high and bright and just slightly unhinged. Like how you privately fucked my sister in our bed? Like how you privately planned your future together while I privately picked out wedding favors? That kind of private? My father was on his feet now, moving toward Marcus with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Marcus's own father was restraining him. You son of a bitch, my dad growled. You absolute. Dad, it's okay. I held up my hand. He's not worth it. Neither of them are. I walked over to Marcus, still holding the microphone. He backed away slightly, but there was nowhere to go. We were surrounded by 200 witnesses to his humiliation. You know what the funny thing is? I said softly, though the microphone carried my words through the entire tent. I actually loved you. Genuinely, completely loved you. I would have been a good wife. A faithful wife. I would have built a life with you that was honest and real. His eyes were red-rimmed. I'm so sorry. You're sorry you got caught, I corrected. There's a difference. I turned to Vanessa. She was sobbing now, her hands covering her face. Our mother had stood up but hadn't moved toward her, just stood there, frozen, staring at her younger daughter like she was looking at a stranger. Vanessa, I said. She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You were my best friend, I said simply. I trusted you with everything. Every secret, every fear, every dream. And you took that trust and you twisted it into something ugly because you wanted something I had. Not because you loved him, I don't think you're capable of loving anyone but yourself, but because for once in your life, I had something you didn't. Elena, please, her voice was a broken whisper. I gave you everything, I continued. I loaned you money when you were broke. I let you live with me rent-free for 6 months. I talked mom and dad out of cutting you off when you quit your 4th job. I defended you to everyone who said you were selfish and irresponsible. And this, I gestured to the screen, still displaying their messages, is how you repaid me. Our mother finally moved. She walked past Vanessa without looking at her and came to me, wrapping her arms around me tightly. I'm so sorry, baby, she whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mom. What do you need? What can we do? I pulled back and looked at her. I need you to let me finish this. She nodded and stepped back, though her hand remained on my shoulder. I addressed the crowd again. I know this isn't the reception you were expecting. I know you came here to celebrate love and commitment and all those beautiful ideals we hold up as sacred. And I'm sorry I've ruined that for you. You didn't ruin anything, someone called out. I looked and saw it was Marcus's cousin, Jennifer. They did. A murmur of agreement rippled through the tent. Thank you, I said. But here's the thing, I'm not actually sorry. Not anymore. Because standing here right now, in this ridiculous dress, in front of all of you, telling the truth for the first time in 3 days? This is the most honest I've felt in months. Maybe years. I set the microphone down on the nearest table and started walking toward the exit. Then I stopped and turned back. Oh, and one more thing. The honeymoon to Bali that Marcus booked? The one we were supposed to leave for tomorrow morning? I've transferred it to Mom and Dad's names. You two deserve a vacation after raising such wildly different daughters. My mother started crying. My father was still glaring at Marcus like he wanted to commit murder. "Enjoy the rest of the party," I said. "The bar's open for another 3 hours. Might as well get your money's worth, well, Marcus's money's worth." And then I walked out of my own wedding reception, still wearing my dress, my veil trailing behind me like a ghost. Rita the investigator was waiting in the parking lot with her car running. "Damn," she said as I climbed into the passenger seat. "That was even better than we planned. Did you get video of the whole thing?" "Every second. Already uploaded to the secure cloud." "Perfect." She pulled out of the parking lot, leaving behind the chaos I'd created. Through the rearview mirror, I could see people streaming out of the tent, clustering in groups, phones out and glowing in the dusk. "Where to?" Rita asked. "The hotel downtown. The one where Marcus and Vanessa used to meet." She glanced at me. "Really?" "I booked the suite. Seemed fitting." We drove in silence for a while. I watched the suburbs give way to city lights, my wedding dress bunched around me in the car seat, my veil finally removed and resting in my lap. "You doing okay?" Rita asked eventually. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "Ask me tomorrow." The hotel suite was obscenely expensive, $800 a night, which I'd put on Marcus's credit card that he'd given me for wedding emergencies. I figured this qualified. I ordered room service, a bottle of champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries, and a burger with fries because the reception dinner seemed like it had happened in another lifetime and I was suddenly starving. Then I sat on the balcony overlooking the city and finally let myself feel it. The grief came first. Not for Marcus, I realized I'd stopped grieving him the moment I'd seen those text messages. The grief was for the version of my life I'd imagined. The partnership I'd thought we'd have. The trust I'd never be able to give someone that completely again. Then came the anger. Hot and clarifying, burning through me like a wildfire. How dare they? How dare they make a fool of me, thinking I was too naive to notice, too trusting to question. And finally, something else. Something that felt almost like relief. I was free. Free of Marcus's condescension disguised as love. Free of Vanessa's constant neediness disguised as sisterhood. Free of the role I'd been playing for so long, the good girl, the responsible one, the person everyone could count on to swallow her own needs for the sake of keeping the peace. That version of Elena had died today. Someone new was being born. My phone started buzzing around 8 p.m. Text messages flooded in, some from friends, some from extended family, some from numbers I didn't recognize. Most of them were supportive. "Sarah, college roommate, holy shit. Are you okay?" That was the most badass thing I've ever seen. "Aunt Margaret, your mother called me. I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself. You deserve so much better. Jessica, coworker. I never liked Marcus anyway. Drinks on me whenever you're ready." A few were confused. "Marcus's mom, Elena, please, can we talk? There has to be an explanation. Uncle Tom, did something happen at the wedding? Your mother isn't making sense." And one was from Vanessa. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry. Please. I love you. I made a terrible mistake. Please talk to me." I deleted it without responding. Marcus tried calling 17 times before I finally blocked his number. Vanessa tried 23 times before I blocked hers too. The only call I answered was from my lawyer. "I saw the video," she said. "Your friend Rita sent it over." Elena, that was, well, I can't say I'd recommend that approach to all my clients, but I have to admit it was effective. "Do we have a case?" "We have a case. Multiple cases, actually. Fraud, breach of contract, emotional distress. And since this all happened in front of 200 witnesses and was caught on video, their defense options are extremely limited. How long will it take? Depends on whether they want to fight or settle. Based on what I saw tonight, and the public humiliation factor, My guess is they'll want to settle quietly and quickly. What kind of settlement are we looking at? For the wedding costs alone, you're looking at recovery of approximately $125,000. Add in the emotional distress claim, and I'd estimate we could push for $250,000 to $300,000. Split between both defendants. I did the math. So Marcus pays the majority, given his income? Exactly. And your sister, even if she can't pay immediately, would be legally obligated. It would follow her for years. Good, I said. There's one more thing, my lawyer added. Several people at the wedding tonight apparently work in media. This story is going to get out. Probably within 24 hours. I need you to be prepared for that. Let it get out, I said. I'm not ashamed of anything I did. That's the right attitude. I'll draft a statement for you to approve, just in case reporters reach out. And Elena? Yeah? What you did took incredible courage. Most people would have just canceled quietly and tried to move on. You made sure there were consequences. After we hung up, I sat on the balcony for a long time, drinking champagne straight from the bottle and watching the city lights blur into a watercolor painting. My phone buzzed again. This time it was from Rita. Rita, thought you should know, I'm still at the venue. Marcus and Vanessa tried to leave together. Your dad and about 6 other men blocked them. They had to leave in separate cars. Neither of them looked good. I smiled. My father was a gentle man, a professor of literature who cried at sad movies and rescued spiders instead of killing them. But he was also fiercely protective of his daughters, or daughter, singular now, I supposed. Me, is Dad okay? Rita, he's fine. He's also threatening to sue Marcus separately for breaking his daughter's heart. I don't think that's a legally recognized claim, but the threat alone seems to be working. Me, tell him I love him. And that I'm okay. Rita, will do. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense. She wasn't wrong. I woke up the next morning to 147 text messages, 43 missed calls, and 15 voicemails. But more significantly, I woke up to a Twitter trending topic, #WeddingRevenge. Someone, probably multiple someones, had filmed my speech and posted it online. It had gone viral overnight. The video had been viewed millions of times. There were think pieces, opinion articles, tweets analyzing whether what I'd done was justified or cruel. Most people seemed to be on my side. She's a queen for this. Public humiliation is exactly what cheaters deserve. The fact that they let her plan an entire wedding while they were sleeping together is sick. She had every right to expose them. This is what accountability looks like. But there were detractors too. This is just cruel. Handle your relationship problems privately. She humiliated them in front of their families. That's toxic behavior regardless of what they did. 2 wrongs don't make a right. She should have just called off the wedding. I read through the comments for about 10 minutes before deciding I didn't care what strangers on the internet thought. I knew what I'd done and why I'd done it. That was enough. My mother called around 10 a.m. How are you, sweetheart? I don't know, Mom. Processing. Your father and I are worried about you. Do you want us to come to you? No, I'm okay. I just need some time alone to think. Have you seen the news? The videos? Yeah. A pause. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. What you did took strength. Thanks, Mom. My voice cracked slightly. How's Dad? He's furious. He wanted to go to Marcus's apartment last night. I had to physically restrain him. Despite everything, I laughed. Tell him thank you, but it's not worth it. And Vanessa? My mother's voice changed, becoming hollow. She's staying with your aunt. She tried to come home last night, but your father wouldn't let her in the house. I felt a pang of something, not quite sympathy, but an acknowledgement of the magnitude of what Vanessa had lost. Our parents had always been more forgiving of her mistakes, but this was different. This wasn't borrowing money or losing another job. This was a fundamental betrayal of family. "Mom, I need you to know something," I said. "What happens between you and Vanessa, that's your decision to make. She's your daughter, and I won't ask you to choose between us. She stopped being my daughter when she did this to you." My mother's voice was fierce. "I know I've made excuses for her before. Enabled her. But this? This is unforgivable. She'll need help. She can get help from someone else. Right now, you're my priority. You're the one who was hurt. You're the one who needs support." We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Then I ordered more room service and spent the rest of the morning going through the legal documents my lawyer had sent over. The case was airtight. The evidence was overwhelming. Short of claiming temporary insanity, which wouldn't actually help them, Marcus and Vanessa had no defense. Around 2 p.m., my lawyer called with an update. Marcus's lawyer reached out. They want to settle. Already? His firm is threatening to fire him. Apparently, there's a morality clause in his partnership agreement, and public adultery scandals don't play well with their corporate clients. He's panicking. What's he offering? Full reimbursement of wedding costs plus $100,000 for emotional distress. Total of $225,000. And Vanessa? She doesn't have representation yet. But legally, she's equally liable. If Marcus pays the settlement, he can sue her separately for contribution. I thought about that. Marcus suing Vanessa. Vanessa, who had no money, no stable job, no safety net beyond our parents, who had now withdrawn their support. "Tell Marcus's lawyer we'll take the settlement on one condition," I said. "What's that?" "He doesn't pursue Vanessa for her share. He pays it all." My lawyer was quiet for a moment. "Elena, that's generous. Legally, you're entitled to pursue both of them." "I know. But Marcus is the one with the money. Marcus is the one who proposed to me while sleeping with her. He's the one who should pay." "Are you sure?" I thought about Vanessa's last text message. The desperation in it. She'd already lost our family, her reputation, and any remaining self-respect. Making her bankrupt on top of that felt like overkill. "I'm sure," I said. "But I want a signed statement from her, an admission of guilt, an apology, and an agreement never to contact me again." "Done. I'll draft it." The settlement was finalized within a week. Marcus paid $225,000 into an escrow account. The money would be released to me once both he and Vanessa signed the final agreements. Vanessa's statement arrived via my lawyer's office. It was typed, not handwritten, and it was brief. I, Vanessa Marie Chen, acknowledge that I engaged in an affair with Marcus James Hartley while he was engaged to my sister, Elena Marie Chen. I acknowledge that my actions caused significant emotional harm to my sister and betrayed her trust in unforgivable ways. I take full responsibility for my choices and the pain I've caused. I agree never to contact Elena again unless she initiates contact first. I'm sorry. I will be sorry for the rest of my life. Her signature was at the bottom, notarized and legal. I read it 3 times, looking for something, what, I wasn't sure. Excuses? Explanations? But there was nothing except the bare acknowledgement of what she'd done. I signed my own copies of the documents and sent them back. By the end of week 2, it was all over. Legally, at least. The marriage was annulled. The money was transferred to my account. Marcus had been quietly let go from his firm, not officially fired, but encouraged to pursue opportunities elsewhere. Vanessa had moved out of state, to Colorado or Nevada or somewhere far away. I was single, significantly wealthier, and completely unmoored. The 3rd week after the wedding, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called in sick to work and drove to the beach. It was a Tuesday morning in October, and the beach was almost deserted. Just me, a few surfers in wetsuits, and some seagulls fighting over a discarded sandwich. I sat in the sand, still in my jeans and sweater, and stared at the ocean. This was supposed to be my honeymoon week. I should have been in Bali right now, walking on different beaches with Marcus, pretending everything was perfect. Instead, I was here. Alone. Free. My phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but the number was unfamiliar, so curiosity won. Elena-chan? A woman's voice, professional but warm. Speaking. My name is Diana Wu. I'm a literary agent based in New York. I saw the video of your wedding speech, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in writing a book about your experience. I laughed. A book? Your story is compelling. The betrayal, the planning, the public confrontation, it's the kind of narrative that resonates with people. And based on your speech, you're clearly an effective communicator. I'm not a writer. You don't need to be. We'd pair you with a ghostwriter. But I think there's a market for this. Women who've been betrayed, who felt powerless in their relationships, who want to see justice and accountability, they'd connect with your story. I'll think about it, I said, because I didn't know what else to say. Please do. Here's my card. She texted me her contact information. No pressure. But I think you have something important to share. After we hung up, I sat with the idea for a while. A book. My story, out in the world, permanent and public. Part of me recoiled from the idea. I'd already been exposed enough, hadn't I? The video had been seen by millions. Did I really need to revisit the trauma in print? But another part of me, the part that had planned the wedding reveal, that had stood up in front of 200 people and demanded accountability, that part was intrigued. How many women had been in my position? How many had discovered infidelity and swallowed it quietly, cancelled weddings and absorbed the shame, let the betrayers walk away without consequences? What if I could show them a different path? Not necessarily my path, public confrontation wasn't for everyone. But a path where they prioritized themselves, where they refused to be diminished, where they demanded better. I saved Diana's number. A month after the wedding, I finally went back to work. My coworkers had been supportive but understandably curious. Everyone had seen the video. Everyone knew what had happened. You're famous, my cubicle neighbor, Tom, said on my first day back. Infamous is probably more accurate. No, seriously. You're a legend. Half the women in this office have said they want to be like you. I laughed. They want their fiancés to cheat on them? They want your courage. Your refusal to be a victim. The phrase stuck with me, refusal to be a victim. Was that what I'd done? Refused victimhood? I'd certainly refused silence. Refused to carry the shame that rightfully belonged to Marcus and Vanessa. Refused to let them walk away clean while I bore the weight of their choices. But I'd also been hurt. Devastated. Betrayed at the deepest level. Those things weren't mutually exclusive, I was realizing. You could be wounded and strong at the same time. You could grieve what you'd lost while celebrating what you'd escaped. Work was good for me. It gave me structure, routine, a sense of normalcy. I dove into spreadsheets and quarterly reports with the kind of focus I usually reserved for wedding planning. My boss pulled me aside at the end of my first week back. How are you doing? Really? I'm okay, I said. Surprisingly okay. You know you can take more time if you need it. I know. But I think working is helping. Keeps my mind occupied. She nodded. Well, for what it's worth, I think what you did was brave. My ex-husband cheated on me, and I wish I'd had your spine when I found out. Instead, I just crumbled. I'm sorry that happened to you. It was 20 years ago. But seeing what you did, standing up for yourself like that, it was cathartic. Like watching someone do what I wish I'd done. I heard variations of that sentiment a lot over the next few weeks. Women, mostly women, though some men too, reaching out to tell me their own stories of betrayal and regret. Wishing they'd fought back. Wishing they'd demanded accountability instead of quietly accepting the role of the wronged party. It made me think about Diana's offer more seriously. 3 months after the wedding I met Vanessa one more time. She'd reached out through our aunt, asking if I'd be willing to talk. I'd said no at first. The agreement we'd signed specifically said she wouldn't contact me unless I initiated it. But our aunt persisted. She's struggling, Elena. Really struggling. I'm not asking you to forgive her or reconcile. Just, hear her out. For your own closure, if nothing else. So I agreed to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between where we both lived. She looked terrible. Thinner than I'd ever seen her, her hair dull, dark circles under her eyes. The beauty that had always been her calling card seemed muted, faded. We sat across from each other at a small table, our coffee cups untouched between us. Thank you for coming, she said finally. I'm not here to forgive you, I said immediately. I want that to be clear. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. No, you don't. She flinched but nodded. I wanted to explain. There's nothing to explain. You slept with my fiancé for months. You helped me plan a wedding while actively betraying me. Those are facts. Explanations don't change them. I was jealous, she said anyway, her voice small. My whole life, you were the good one. The successful one. Mom and Dad were always disappointed in me, always comparing me to you. And then you had Marcus, this perfect guy who loved you and wanted to build a life with you, and I wanted that. I wanted someone to look at me the way he looked at you. So you took him. I know how horrible that sounds. It sounds exactly as horrible as it is, I interrupted. Vanessa, I loved you. I defended you to everyone who criticized you. I was never your competition, I was your sister. Your ally. And you turned our relationship into some twisted rivalry that existed only in your head. Tears were streaming down her face now. I know. God, Elena, I know. I've lost everything. Mom and Dad won't talk to me. My friends won't return my calls. I had to move because people recognized me from the video. I can't get a job because potential employers Google my name and find the whole story. My life is over. Part of me felt a savage satisfaction at that. This was what I'd wanted, wasn't it? For her to face consequences? But seeing her broken like this, I also felt something else. Not forgiveness, I wasn't sure I'd ever be capable of that. But maybe a kind of tired pity. Your life isn't over, I said. It's just different now. Harder, yes. But you're not dead. You can rebuild. How? How do I come back from this? The same way anyone comes back from their worst mistakes. You accept responsibility, really accept it, not just legally but in your soul. You work on yourself. You figure out why you did what you did and fix those broken parts. You become someone better than who you were. Do you think I can? I looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time since she'd arrived. Beneath the tears and the exhaustion, I could still see my sister. The girl who'd shared a bedroom with me growing up. Who'd helped me through my first breakup. Who'd once been my closest friend. But I could also see a stranger. Someone capable of cruelty I'd never imagined. I don't know, I said honestly. That's up to you. We sat in silence for a moment. Do you ever think you might forgive me? She asked. Someday? I don't know that either, I said. Right now, I'm focusing on healing myself. Rebuilding my life. Figuring out who I am without the identity of the good sister or the trusting girlfriend. Maybe someday I'll have space to think about forgiveness. But that day isn't today. That's fair. I stood to leave. Vanessa? She looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes. I hope you get help. Real help. Therapy, probably. Because whatever drove you to do this, that needs to be addressed. Not for me, but for you. I am seeing someone twice a week. Good. Keep at it. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back one more time. And Vanessa? Despite everything, and I mean everything, I don't wish you harm. I don't want your life to be destroyed forever. I just want you far away from mine. Then I left, and I didn't look back. 6 months after the wedding, I signed the book deal. The ghostwriter was talented, collaborative, and respectful of my story. We spent hours on video calls, her asking questions, me reliving the pain and the planning and the aftermath. Writing the book, or rather, telling my story for the book, was therapeutic in ways I hadn't expected. It forced me to examine not just what had happened, but why I'd responded the way I had. What it meant about me, about my values, about the person I wanted to become. The working title was The Revenge Bride, How I Turned My Wedding Day into Justice Day. My publisher hated it. Too aggressive, they said. We eventually settled on Said I Do, but meant I don't, A Wedding Day Reckoning. The book released 9 months after the wedding. It became a bestseller within the first week. The reviews were mixed, as I'd expected. Some praised it as empowering and honest. Others criticized it as vindictive and performative. But the messages I received from readers were overwhelmingly positive. Women, and some men, sharing their own stories of betrayal. Thanking me for showing them that they didn't have to accept being hurt quietly. That demanding accountability wasn't cruel or petty, but necessary. One message stood out. My fiancé cheated on me 2 weeks before our wedding. I was going to go through with it anyway because I was embarrassed and didn't want to deal with canceling everything. Then I read your book. I called it off. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know it was right. Thank you for giving me the courage to choose myself. That message made everything worth it. A year after the wedding, I went on my first date since Marcus. His name was Daniel, and he was a friend of a friend, an environmental engineer who'd never seen the viral video and had no idea who I was when we met at a dinner party. We talked for 3 hours at that party, about everything except my past. He was funny and kind and genuinely interested in my thoughts about city planning and sustainable development and whether dogs actually understand human language or just respond to tone. When he asked for my number, I hesitated. I should probably tell you something first, I said. Okay. Google my name. Right now. Just do it. He pulled out his phone, confused, and typed Elena Chen. I watched his face as he scrolled through the results. The video. The articles. The book. The whole messy, public saga of my failed wedding. Oh, he said finally. Yeah. So if you want to retract that request for my number, I understand. He put his phone away and looked at me. Why would I do that? Because I come with baggage. A lot of very public baggage. We all have baggage. Yours just happens to have been documented and distributed widely. He smiled. But from what I just speed read, you handled a terrible situation with remarkable strength. That's not baggage. That's character. I gave him my number. Our first date was coffee, neutral, safe, nothing too intense. He asked about the book. I told him the truth. That writing it had been healing but also reopening old wounds. That I was still learning how to trust people again. That's understandable, he said. Take your time. No pressure. We dated slowly. Carefully. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for him to reveal some hidden flaw, some secret that would devastate me again. But Daniel was consistent. Reliable. He showed up when he said he would. He communicated openly. When I told him I needed space, he gave it without making me feel guilty. 3 months into dating, he met my parents. My father grilled him for 2 hours about his intentions, his values, his views on commitment and fidelity. Daniel answered every question patiently and honestly. I like him, my dad said after Daniel left. But I liked Marcus too, so what do I know? You like him because he's actually good, I said. Not because he's good at pretending to be good. There's a difference. My mother hugged me. You're wiser now. Harder to fool. She was right. The betrayal had changed me. Made me more guarded, yes, but also more discerning. I trusted my instincts in ways I never had before. When something felt off, I investigated instead of ignoring it. Daniel never gave me reason to investigate. 18 months after the wedding, I ran into Marcus. It was completely accidental, we were both at a mutual friend's birthday party. I hadn't known he'd been invited. He looked older. More worn. The confidence that had always defined him seemed diminished, replaced by something that looked almost like shame. We ended up on the same balcony, both escaping the noise inside. Elena, he said. I didn't know you'd be here. Neither did I, small world. An awkward silence. How are you? He asked finally. Good. Really good, actually. I heard about the book. Congratulations. Thank you. Another pause. Then, I'm sorry. I know I said it before, at the wedding, but I don't think you could hear me then. I'm truly sorry for what I did to you. I studied him. He looked sincere. But sincerity after the fact didn't erase the damage. Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught? I asked. Both, honestly. But mostly sorry I did it. I was selfish and cruel, and you deserved so much better. Yes, I did. Are you happy now? I thought about Daniel. About my work. About the book and the speaking engagements I'd started doing. About the version of myself I'd become, stronger, more authentic, less willing to shrink herself to make others comfortable. Yes, I said. I'm happy. Good. That's good. He looked like he wanted to say more but didn't know how. Marcus, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret proposing to me? Knowing what you know now about yourself and what you wanted. He considered the question carefully. I regret how I handled it. But no, I don't regret proposing. I thought I could make it work, have the life I was supposed to want with you, and have whatever that thing was with Vanessa on the side. I thought I could compartmentalize. I was wrong. That's honest, at least. I'm trying to be better. More honest. It's harder than I thought it would be. Being honest is always harder than lying, I said. But it's worth it. He nodded. Are you seeing anyone? Yes. Someone good. Does he know? About what happened? He knows everything. I showed him the video on our first date. Marcus winced. Brave guy. Brave guy who sees me as more than my worst moment or your mistakes. He's lucky. We both are. Marcus left the party shortly after. I stayed, rejoining my friends, dancing until my feet hurt, laughing until my face ached. Later, Daniel picked me up. How was it? He asked. Unexpectedly cathartic, I said. Marcus was there. Oh. Are you okay? I'm okay. It was weird, but not devastating. I think I'm finally past it. Past him, or past what happened? Both. All of it. I'm ready to stop being defined by my wedding day. Daniel squeezed my hand. You were never defined by it. You were defined by how you responded to it. 2 years after the wedding, on what would have been my second anniversary with Marcus, I did something I'd been planning for months. I threw a party. Not a wedding. Not an anniversary celebration. Just a party, for me, for my friends, for everyone who'd supported me through the aftermath. I rented the same garden where the wedding had taken place. The same one where I'd exposed Marcus and Vanessa in front of 200 guests. I invited 100 people this time, smaller, more intimate. My parents. Daniel. My close friends. My coworkers. Even Rita, the investigator who'd helped me gather evidence. There were no chairs set up in rows. No arbor. No altar. Just string lights and good food and music and laughter. I stood in the same spot where I'd stood in my wedding dress and made a different kind of speech. 2 years ago, I stood here on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and instead, it became one of the most painful. But it also became a turning point. The moment I stopped being someone who let life happen to her and started being someone who took control of her own narrative. I looked around at all the faces. People who'd witnessed my breakdown and my rebuilding, who'd supported me through both. I'm not going to lie and say I'm grateful for the betrayal. I'm not. It hurt like hell, and there are still days when I feel the echo of that pain. But I am grateful for what came after. For the strength I discovered. For the people who showed up. For the chance to rebuild my life into something authentic and true. I raised my glass. So thank you. All of you. For being part of this weird, messy, beautiful journey. Here's to second acts and new beginnings and refusing to let our worst moments define us. Everyone raised their glasses and cheered. Daniel wrapped his arm around my waist. That was perfect, he whispered. It felt right, I said. Reclaiming this space. Making new memories here. We danced as the sun set, the same golden light that had illuminated my wedding day now casting everything in warm, forgiving tones. Later, as guests were leaving and the caterers were cleaning up, my mother found me sitting on a bench under the trees. What are you thinking about? She asked, settling beside me. How different everything is from what I planned. How I thought my life would go one way, and instead, it went completely another. Are you sad about it? No. Not anymore. I think sometimes the life we plan isn't the life we need. The universe breaks our plans because it has better ones in mind. That's very philosophical of you. I've had a lot of time to think. She took my hand. Your father and I are proud of you. Not just for how you handled everything, but for how you've rebuilt. You're stronger than I ever was at your age. You're pretty strong yourself, Mom. Maybe. But you? You're extraordinary. We sat together in comfortable silence, watching the last of the guests say their goodbyes, watching Daniel help the caterers pack up even though he didn't have to, watching the fairy lights twinkle in the gathering dark. 2 years ago, this garden had been the site of my greatest humiliation. Tonight, it was just a garden. Beautiful and peaceful and full of new memories that had nothing to do with betrayal or revenge or anything except joy. And that, I thought, was the real victory. Not the public confrontation. Not the lawsuit. Not the book or the money or the fleeting internet fame. The victory was this: I had survived. I had healed. I had built a life I actually wanted instead of one I thought I was supposed to want. I was no longer the naive girl who trusted blindly. But I also wasn't the hardened woman who trusted no one. I was somewhere in between, wiser, yes, but still open. Still capable of love, but more careful about who I gave it to. Still me, just a better version. And for the first time in 2 years, that felt like enough. Don't miss the next story. Subscribe to Midnight Revelations. Hit that subscribe button now.